Good evening. I call to order the Cape Charles Planning Commission regular session, Cape Charles Civic Center, 500 Tazewell Avenue, November 9th, 2022. Roll call, please.
Grossman present.
Buda present.
Holloway present.
Let it be shown that we have a quorum. At this time, will everyone please stand for a moment of silence, followed by the pledge. Join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. If I don't have any comments from the other commissioners on the consent agenda, I will take it that under common consent. Public hearings are none. Citizen comment period. We have anybody for comment?
I do not have anyone signed up.
Okay, thank you.
Good.
Unfinished business, we have none. New business, request from town council to draft zoning text amendments to section 4.5, off-street parking and loading standards, add golf cart parking spaces. Yes, ma'am.
As you see in your packet, town council did pass a resolution at their meeting last month asking us to take up this issue. Specifically, this came about as we started to do some initial site plan work with the proposed new town hall. And we want to ensure that that is some allocation within the parking space for golf carts. And already the amount of spaces for regular cars that would be required under ordinances is a significant amount of space and square footage. And trying to then accommodate what we think would be a reasonable amount of golf carts, just continue to increase the square footage. And so that started this conversation, I believe, amongst town council about looking to put in some provisions and allowances of some sort of, not swap, but assignment of how many golf cart spaces should be included in these sorts of developments, as well as the regular parking, and maybe there is some relief of the regular parking numbers if there are also golf cart parking spaces allocated in those plans. So this is just the first request over to you to us to start working on this. It's a sizable undertaking because I can't imagine that we won't somehow delve off into some other parking regulation concerns that may arise as you do this review. So I thought maybe it might be best if the Planning Commission would consider assigning a subcommittee to take this up. So I put it for your conversation, or would you rather have the entire commission take this up over the next few months?
Is anybody interested in being in a subcommittee on this?
Well, I had a question, just a question
Sure.
before we get into that. The subcommittee, I like that idea. How extensive would you say, if you're dealing with the town hall aspect, the new town hall, and the shared parking aspects, is there something that can be done to address just that? Because the way I see bigger picture is rehashing the parking study, across the entire town. That would certainly then bring in golf carts and, equivalent lengths and spaces and what have you, and that may be more an appropriate time how to address the big picture as opposed to the immediate concern.
Sure. Do I think we could do a relatively quick fix that addresses the requirements for a municipal facility versus every use allocated in the parking regulations? I think so. So I think that would be our first approach, and then siphon that off immediately to get amended as a zoning text amendment. But I still think the council is requesting some consideration for any future development. There be some sort of consideration that we should require some golf carts, not necessarily for a house. I don't think that's where they're going, but more for those that require a parking facility of some sort associated with that project, whether it's a a beach market kind of development, or if there's
Well-
a larger
Workforce
apartment building
housing,
coming in
Or
or
like
something of
a
that
Mason
nature.
Avenue.
But it
Right.
could be residential too, because
It
you
could.
get down to a 40-foot front on a residence and 2 cars and now a golf cart because I don't have a driveway and I'm gonna bring a cord out to the street
Right.
and all of a sudden I have, so it could involve,
It could, and I think if we get into that level, into the residential neighborhoods, we might need to petition within our budget some outside consulting, professional consulting
Right,
services to help
right.
with that design and layout. And that's it's a much broader conversation. So I definitely think from this perspective, it was a focus more on intense commercial uses, as well as what could be intense multifamily type residential dwellings that could be on the horizon soon. And we were trying to make sure that we're embracing that we're a golf cart community. I think that's where this is coming from, if I had to guess, as well as the sizing associated with golf carts is different from a vehicle parking space. And right now, we're just allowing a golf cart to occupy an entire parking space as is. And that may not be the best effective use of our square footage, that's all.
Yeah, but it also depends on what type of golf cart it is. Is this a 4-person golf cart, a 6-person golf cart, an 8-person golf cart?
But it's a.
'Cause then all of a sudden that
But it's
becomes
the width thing too, that's where.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And again, that could all be part of these design
Yeah.
standards of how you mark something of that. If you have to create a parking lot, then how you mark it.
Right.
You know, because you see these, you have compact car spaces versus a giant truck.
Right.
An SUV. This happens all the time, and we just need to reflect that in our documents at this
Yeah.
point.
So I would recommend that we start with revising for municipal as well as multifamily residential before we try to tackle the whole
Right,
thing.
right, that's what I'm
Because
saying.
those are our 2 big priorities coming up.
And do we want to go ahead and form a subcommittee to work on that, or do you want to pause that for a month since we're short a few members?
Yeah, I would think, I think it's a good idea to have a subcommittee, but since we are.
I do too.
We're missing 2 members tonight, plus we have a vacancy. So we can, I'll put the word out to them about that, but I think everybody here thinks the subcommittee is the right way to go.
Yeah, that-
Okay.
Well, thank you.
And we're talking subcommittee with Kate and 2 planning commission members, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Unless you want to excuse me, but no, yeah.
Well, considering you're gonna do the work, you need to be
Good
there.
try,
Just-
but,
Good try.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Katie. So that takes care of the new business. Report of officers and committees, Housing Committee, re-land use, ordinance barriers to housing development. So we talked about this last month. You have, all the commissioners have these, basically these spreadsheet that Commissioner Grossman put together.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, can I jump in?
Go
just to
ahead, go ahead.
Walk us through this. So yes, this is your first time seeing the work to date that the Housing Subcommittee has done. We have not completed our recommendations or full review. We still have at least 2 more factors to go, I think.
More, we start on 4 through 8, we still have to do.
There's 8 to go. I thought there was.
Yeah. Yes.
And we've kind of had a little pause over the last 2 weeks or so. We haven't been consistent in our meeting just because there's been other things pushing on my calendar. And I appreciate the relief you guys have given me for meeting every week. But from that end, we still have more to come, but we didn't want to hold these off any longer. We felt they're at a pretty good level of work, of completion, of a recommendation from the subcommittee out to the full board. So we wanted to share those with you. So yes, you have them electronically today. All of this documentation that you see today has also been posted to our Planning Commission website under the housing report, the housing subcommittee's work. So again, we're now putting it out publicly so everybody has a chance to see this. And I will be sharing this, I'm prepping that work product to actually go over to our consultants who are working on the comp plan. As you remember, their next phase of work is starting to work on some zoning text amendments, so I am gonna be funneling this over in their direction so they can see some of the work we have been studying in-house of things that we think need to be affected in our zoning ordinance as well. So with that said, if there's any conversation you wish to have tonight, I really would turn to Paul, just because he's had the greatest effort in assembling this documentation. It's not the first time you've seen the first factor in the definitions in particular and the uses. And we've tried to put them together in such a way that makes some sense. We've combined them so you can see if we have defined something, we've added that here as a column. And we also have broken this out slightly differently than the way you see it in your ordinance, so that we have everything listed by uses. And then it's across the row to go see what districts those uses are allowed in. Whereas when you go look at our zoning ordinance, it's by district, and then it tells you all the uses, so we've mixed it up just a little bit. It sometimes is useful to see it this way, so you can see where those uses could happen throughout town. And again, we've highlighted in yellow anything that is associated with a housing-related issue or concern that was identified in that report we received. And so we are continuing that theme all the way through these charts, so that's why you see lots of yellow. We're primarily focused on housing. It doesn't mean any of the other uses there or definitions of those uses can't be brought up for conversation and consideration for any sort of zoning text amendment in the near future. We just focused our work only on housing-related concerns. So it really is just for your information, and start digesting this, and it's a lot of reading material. It's not fun. If you can describe it, this is fun at any point in time. But it's very informative. It takes really sitting down and plowing through this, and it helps if you break it up a little bit, that's all.
Yeah, I guess the important column really is ultimately our agreement on the recommendations. You know, so it boils down to 5% of this material really is meaningful. The rest is how we got down to the 5% column, and if we can agree to, item number 1, yep, we agree with the change. Item 3, no. Item 4, yes. You know, we can just start marching through the factors as we complete them. I'd ask big picture-wise for factors 4 through 8 that we still, what's the time frame that we have to have that completed in order to feed into the consultant's
So
work?
with our comp plan, we are looking to have that adopted before the end of this year. And again, some of that is contingent upon this body, because we're going to a joint public hearing on December 6th, which is your first meeting in December. And the hope is that same evening, you will be able to provide a recommendation back to town council. If you are not at that point to provide and formulate that recommendation, town council is currently scheduled for that to be on their action items, action agenda to take up. But if they do not have a recommendation from the planning commission, then that would have to be bypassed.
But that's for the comp plan.
That's for the comp plan.
Yeah.
And I tell you that because that's where we are. They are just starting now to pull together what should be the zoning text changes
Oh, I see.
relative to the current
comp plan.
draft comp plan.
Yeah.
So if that seems to get stalled, or there might be substantial changes of some nature to the comp plan, I don't think they will start the work on the zoning text changes until we are sure we've buttoned down what is the comp plan document. So, just to make you aware of that.
But this could be above and beyond the changes coming out of the comp plan.
It could be
I
above,
expect it to
above
be.
those things,
Yeah, yeah,
yes. Do I know, as part of their comp plan work, there's been some delving into some of the housing-related uses? Yes. So I think some of these can be aligned and tie in quite nicely to be tackled as part of those zoning text changes at the same time. Definitely some of the districts we're firming up. So if we need to make any allowance changes there associated with the comp plan, this would tie in nicely. That if I can tackle that in, let's tackle it in now. And it would help if we're doing definition changes in particular. It would be nice to get those in at this point. So the more we can button things down of what we think we should happen and follow those over to our consultants, who can, still with a fresh impression in their own mind of the comp plan they just wrote for us, does that work within the context of the comp plan? So the more things we think should be changed in this document that we can share with them now, the better for us.
Yeah, I'm not sure then timing-wise, because I can see us taking
Several
two,
months.
yeah, through December, given calendars and Thanksgiving or
And
whatever.
I think so. I think if we can get to finish our review of this report, and we have shared this report, of course, with our consultant as well, this Berkeley, the Berkeley Group report. They're aware we're working on this. I'm keeping them updated. I've not shared these spreadsheets, but I think if we're getting close, I can say, well, here's where we are. The commission is still reviewing and needing to get to a full commission approval or recommendation. I can provide that to them so they can start looking at it and thinking about it.
Okay.
That's good.
I think if we can try and complete our housing subcommittee work by the beginning of January, then it would work.
Oh, I think that's a good, yeah, it's a good
Yes.
target. That's what I was trying to feel for. Okay.
Yes. But it means we work a little bit around the holidays.
Okay, any other questions for Katie on that? Got your work cut out for you? All right. Report of office, there's nothing else there. Standing staff reports.
Sure, and I will comment with my staff report as part of this. I made an error that I did not include on this agenda, and I was rightly corrected by our chairman. By our bylaws, we're also supposed to be selecting officers. So once I finish my report, I'd like to bring that back up for conversation and see if we wish to tackle that as tonight's agenda as well. So with that said, in my monthly report, we received 2 preliminary plats that have come in from Bayview. No, Bay Creek, sorry, I'm in the wrong community. Bay Creek. One is for Bayside Village, lots B301 to B358, a total of 58 lots. Just because this one's a little different and where it's hard to show it visually on the map, I included the aerial, and then I've shown the layout from the subdivision plat that's been submitted. I will make you aware, I am holding off approving this one to allow the completion of the water and sewer infrastructure and cost analysis and laying out the future capital plan associated with that analysis of what would be our use allocations in the near future and in the long term, to allow that negotiation and conversations with the town and any entities necessary to figure out any cost financial obligations associated with the continued expansion of our water and sewer needs. So I just wanted to make you aware of that, so.
I have a
we-
quick question for you. On,
Yes.
on that, on your monthly report, 1A, the aerial view.
Yes.
The dark area that looks sort of like a kidney, is that a green space or is that a water? Is that a,
You
a
mean up
not-
here?
Yes,
That is a little pond, yes.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
So, and that subdivision is staying out of the pond, they're not building in the pond, that is
Yeah.
part of their stormwater plan as a whole. It's just, as I said, it didn't quite line up, so I tried to draw in as best I could what I think are the lines of this subdivision parcel on the aerial map, so you have an idea where this is going
Yeah.
in the Bay Creek.
The reason I asked
subdivision.
that is because of where the blue line on
Right.
there is shown, yeah,
As I
okay.
said, I did the best I could trying to sketch it out, and my hand is not always steady when I'm
Gotcha.
trying to draw these
No
lines in.
problem.
The second subdivision plat that came in is, again, in Bayside Village, what is lots B-138 to B-146, a total of a creation of 9 lots. This one, I will be proceeding, and once I finish my review, and hopefully we get everything completed, then that is one we will be executing. We consider this somewhat of an infill lot within the Bayside Village, so we don't really see this as a strain on our infrastructure needs relative to water and sewer. So again, it's mostly been built out. We just needed to now deal with the layout of the lots within that parcel. So that one we will be proceeding forward once the review is completed. BZA has not had a meeting and no applications to deal with for the month of November. Yay. And then on historic district guidelines, again, just to bring everybody up to speed. So for next Monday, I will be receiving the final draft of the historic district guidelines, as well as the whole list of what should be those zoning text changes that will be coming into Article 8 and into the Article 2, which is the definitions pieces that we may need to add some definitions. And so we are scheduled for that to move forward into public hearing on Tuesday, December 6th. It'll be a joint meeting with Town Council to take up any of the zoning text amendment changes to Article 8 and of course to Article 2. And additionally, so that you recall and remember, we are going to be affirming or reaffirming the overlay map of the historic district boundaries. You do not have to hold a public hearing relative to the guidelines themselves. Only the town council has to hold a public hearing on the guidelines. But we have kept you in the loop so that you understand why the zoning text changes would be necessary, having been driven by the guideline changes. And then, again, if you care to follow it all the way through to the fruition, town council is scheduled on their agenda to take those up with potential action to adopt all the historic district material, guidelines, text changes, and the overlay map as a whole. And then the last item is on our comprehensive plan, which hopefully after tonight's meeting, we will be able to get us to a final document all the way through from our consultants. That's the plan. And so with that said, assuming I give them all the comments from tonight's meeting, that we get through everything tonight in our work session, which is right after this meeting, I will be conveying everything to them tomorrow, and then they will have everything back to us in a final document on Friday, November 18th. And we are scheduled to advertise this and do a joint public hearing also on December 6th with Town Council. And our consultants will be here to make that presentation for, I should say that for both of them. Both consultants will be here that night to make presentations. And again, as we just discussed earlier this evening, part of the council's calendar will count on this body in both matters, hopefully to be able to issue recommendations out on December 6th so that they can take these matters forward for actual adoption or action of some sort at their December 15th meeting. And then this is where I wrote it. Sorry, it's my inside joke and thinking I'm losing my mind. I know I wrote this somehow to you guys, but I couldn't remember how. I wanted to make you aware I have continued conversations with Lance Marine on a workforce housing project on the properties over on Old Cape Charles Road, which you took up a hearing last month on to remove the proffers on that property. So at this point, we are now in a full throttle of a calendar with him of work that he owes us and will be delivering to us by November 30th. Everything from a concept plan to a draft PUD ordinance to all the visuals associated with that concept plan. The whole works will be coming in. And he is scheduled to be on the December 15th of the town council meeting agenda so that they can receive the full presentation of this concept plan. For the start, this will be their first time actually seeing all of this in mass. And then at that point, we are planning that the town council may take a vote that same evening to then start the calendar moving forward on this into a public hearing process, which is authorizing the staff to start working out the whole public calendar and getting it advertised as soon as we can. Which means you would actually, if they take that vote, we would be bringing this back to you at your January meeting to move you into a full public hearing process, starting with the PUD ordinance and all the way down the list. So we just wanted to make you aware of that. You might join that town council meeting for a variety of reasons, but that one in particular is to see the full presentation from Mr. Marine of this concept plan. And from that, when I say that, he will give you an overview of the entire site, how it would be proposed for potential subdivision, and then within that subdivision, how each lot within that would be developed, and in particular, what would be the first round of housing development, and be able to allow you to see what a building would look like, and what the units within the building would look like. And so he'll be able to talk extensively about that as well, and what would be the other potential uses he is now considering to meet what would be the PUD requirements, where you have to have two types of uses, not just housing, but something else. And he has elaborated several potential commercial uses, and he's ready to get a little further in depth with that as well.
Katie, has he shared with you how many units he thinks he might be able to put there?
Well, in phase one, which is, so his plan is to do a subdivision, we know that, and so he will be bringing a road down the middle of the property, and then off of that will be the carving out of lots.
Yeah.
And then from there, the first lot that would get developed is a 2-acre parcel which would be a 60-unit workforce housing project. I don't know yet his phasing plan. That's part of what he's working on now to provide to the town to see that.
Yeah.
So I can't answer that question yet.
Got it.
But we've been talking extensively about that,
Okay,
yes.
good. Thank you.
And that's all I have in my staff report, but again, I would like us to, oh, no, I have one more. Our calendar. We last followed up our 2023 Planning Commission meeting calendar, and with that, we also include what we call the application deadline, which is typically set 1 month in advance of your meeting. So for us to consider CUPs, anything that requires a public hearing, zoning text amendments, zoning map amendments, we need a completed application by that date we've listed so that we can schedule it accordingly and get all the advertising done as necessary. So we just wanted you to know the meeting calendar, and if anybody knows you got a problem with our proposed meeting calendar, which again is still set for this first Tuesday of the month, and we're only booking regular meetings, not work sessions at this point, let me know. Okay?
Thank you. So I'm going to ask the commissioners if you want to go ahead and hold the election for chairman and vice chairman. We have a vacancy, and we have one commissioner absent, or we can postpone this.
I'd prefer to postpone it.
I second that.
All right, okay, that's fine.
Okay, so we will put that on the December calendar. Thank you.
Is there any other comments by commissioners?
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.